Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to One Page Wednesday. This is our show where we have a look at everything one-page rules, and this month is the first video of May, so we're going to be taking a look at the May release from One Page Rules. Let's take a quick shot at the overview. So this month is the first month for a while. They've got all the core units out and released on the 4th. There is one thing pending, which is the monthly Titan, which is a star host. So think Lizardman in space, big dinosaur with lasers and stuff like that. Very cool, extra big vehicle. Every month they do a Titan, so like a big model. They do some terrain, then they do their fantasy release and their sci-fi release. The only thing we're waiting for is that Titan, and it's going to be an absolute beast to print anyway, so I don't think it's the end of the world. What they have managed to deliver this month is the last part of the Wood Elves. This is the last set of Wood Elf models that they're doing for a while. Then they're moving into Dwarves next month, which I am extremely hyped for. I have loved the Wood Elves, but Dwarves are just better. They're just better, okay? It's fine. And they've gone on to their second release of Orc Marauders. Last month, the Orc Marauders were delayed, so I think they only dropped a couple of weeks ago. And now they've dropped some more. Now, they've also got a bit of terrain this month, which is, I think, the last month of desert terrain. I could be wrong, so do let me know if you know something I don't. But this is the area terrain for desert. So you've got an oasis, you've got some dunes, basically. You've got some bits and bobs. The OPR terrain is quite square because they try and maximize your print plate, whether it's FDM or resin. So it's not always the most blendable in, but it's very usable. The only thing is with the flat stuff like this, it is very much a case of find a friend with a plastic printer. Trips, I'm very much looking at you. All right, let's start off with fantasy. So this is the last release. Oops, this is the last release for the Wood Elves, and I have absolutely loved this line. They have done such a good job with these units. The OPR, I mean, they go a slightly different style than your classic fantasy. They're trying to build alternate versions, and I think it's really good because, I mean, you can go get Games Workshop clones as STLs from anywhere. Quite frankly, the older fantasy models from Games Workshop, so I know that they're re-releasing their Wood Elves soon, they're kind of trash. The OPR ones print beautifully, have character, and are, quite frankly, something absolutely different. So let's start with the big lads. Right, here we have two Eternal Guardian Ancients. These are big chunkers. We're talking like 80, 100 mil base lads. They're kind of like a large dreadnought for 40k. It's that kind of territory. I think they're toughness 12 units in the game as well, which means they come with 12 wounds, and they are fantastic. You get 3 alternates to them. You get the one with the scythe, you get the one with the hammer, and you get 3 different body types. One with a cocoon, one with a female elf, and one with a male elf. It prints in a modular format. I haven't printed this one yet. I think I'm going to have to later in the week, because I painted up the smaller one that they dropped a couple of months ago and absolutely loved it. So you get a big monster to start off from the Wood Elves. Now we've got the Flying Beetle Riders, who are Eternal Bug Riders. So these are all toughness 3 each, so they've all got 3 wounds each, so you need to base them on a 50 mil base probably. The owls I think say 40 mil in Army Forge, but realistically it's got to be at least 50 mil. For the Bug Riders, probably 50 you can squeeze them on. 60 mil is more likely to be the case, but they are very cool. So these are to represent the tree revenants from Age of Sigmar that got bugs to fly around on. But what it does for the Wood Elves is it gives you a monstrous cavalry unit that you can roll with, which is very useful. They hit pretty hard as well, so it's quite a cool unit. They've got 2 different weapons. You've got basically lances, which are the long pokey weapons. That is how lances work. And blades, which are the ones on the right hand side. So there's not a huge differentiation between them, but it's one-page rules. You don't need to have a massive differentiation as long as you can tell your opponent what's going on. So I'm a big fan of that. It's very cool. Beetles riding beetles. I did see a really funny comment on one of their OPR on the OPR release. Things like, the bugs have wings, why would they need wings? To which I said, we have legs, but we still ride horses. I'm just going to assume that big wings have big speed. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we got the big monster, we got the monstrous cavalry unit for the week, for the month, and then we've got some way watchers here. So these are actually called Forest Watch. But if you're an old school Warhammer Fantasy fan, these are your way watchers. Now, they've done a cool little thing here. These units are kind of deep forest, so they're kind of more foresty. The way watchers in Warhammer Fantasyland have got cloaks and they blend in with stuff. These guys have already done those. Those are these scouts. Basically, if you want a unit that looks like way watchers, find the scouts. If you want a unit that behaves like way watchers, that is what the Forest Watch are for. So they're ambush, they're very good quality, and basically the best way to describe these, I love this, they're basically archer versions of war dancers. So OPR have done a cool couple of variant units. You've got war dancers with big weapons, you've got war dancers with owl masks and owl wings that can fly around. That was last month's release. And now essentially you've got kind of like the deep forest war dancer vibe, so that Celtic elf with lots of skin showing and not a lot of armor. Now we've got the archer version, which I think is very, very, very cool. And they've also got a Warmaster, which is essentially a war dancer kind of hero. And then you've got one of my favorite models I've seen in a very long time, which is the Forest Warden, which we'll have a proper look at in a minute, because I am a huge fan of that model. It's one of my favorite wizard models for a while. Now, every month OPR will also release one model for their quest games. So there is a Star Quest, which is Sci-Fi Quest, and then there is Quest, which is Fantasy Quest. This month they've got a human cleric, and I love that they're doing this because it means every month you get a sci-fi model that's just all by itself, and you get a fantasy model that's just all by itself. And I think this is really well executed. It's just like this guy, Paladin. Love it. It's a really cool model that you can use for a hero, for your human empire, or you can just paint up and use in a game of Quest. I love that they're doing this, and it's a cool way to kind of give you, it gives you a little taste of other armies. And when we look at the sci-fi one, you'll see what I mean. The only thing that I really, really, really wish, and I'm hoping that OPR starts doing this, is they start using these as a way of like filtering out future designs, future armies. So we've got the dwarves coming up, but after that, it might be orcs, it might be goblins. It would be cool if they were like, oh, this month you get a goblin hero from a release that's upcoming. It's like Magic the Gathering did this with like their time quest thing. So this would work really well as a way for them to try out new designs like years ahead of the rest of the release, to get a bit of fluff out there. And because these are all individual heroes, they can look different, they can have different armor. So if they release a hero for a Battle Brothers hero, they're Space Marines or something like that, and people don't like it, or they don't like what they've done, or they want to change their minds, hey, it was a hero, not a representative of the entire force. So I'm hoping they start doing that. Right, here is the Warmaster. You get two different versions, one male, one female. That's the case for most of the OPR designs. Even the Beetle lads have got slightly different heads, I think, to represent male and female. Really cool, means it's really customizable. I generally, they all come pre-supported as well. So I generally use whichever one I am able to download first. But this is what I mean when they kind of got this kind of war dancer vibe to them. You know, you got the bare chest. I say in war dancer because I'm a Blood Bowl player. So when I think about wood elves, okay, you got the linemen, and then you got the war dancers, and they have this kind of Celtic berserker vibe to them. These ones are quite cool. They've got like Tekken for Mortal Kombat masks on, which I think works really, really, really well. All right, so here is the male and the female Forest Warden, which is your Wood Elf Wizard. I printed both of these because I just love this. So wizards don't normally have armor, so the fact that this guy's got a shield is quite interesting. But the pose, it just looks like it could have come out of a square-based game from years ago. It's the classic pose, there's a lot of gravitas, there's a lot of detail. And this is one of the first models I thought, I think they showed off a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, yes, this is hitting the printer. So this is your Forest Warden, so the Wood Elf Wizard, basically. All right, here's your War Dancers. Again, male and female. You can see they've got the fantastic use of owls throughout this army. This is something else OPR have started doing recently, is putting buddies, they're calling them. And they have had them in all of their different releases over the last couple of years. You have like a little cutesy character that's entirely optional. So if you look at this War Dancer what they actually called it, the Forest Watch. There you go. Forest Watch 1, I think, comes as male, comes as female, comes as male with body as well. So you can absolutely print the out, or you can not print the out. So we've got the War Dancers in 2 different forms. Then you've got the Bug Riders, which again, monstrous cavalry, very cool design. I was very interested to see how they play this out. Now, the only downside about this is that their kind of bug faces are a little bit like a Pokemon. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a little bit cutesier than the rest of the range, but it's the case of all of their bugs have this kind of rounded cutesy head. When they're printed and when they're painted, they do not look as cutesy, not by a long shot. So don't let that put you off these models, because they are a very cool set. Now, I think these are the lances, and these are the swords, or I can't remember what they're called, blades or something like that. It gives you 2 different versions of the cavalry, but I am a big fan of variability, and the fact that you get all these different ones, I mean, it's 3D printing, so you can mirror them, you can do whatever you want with them, and I absolutely loving having the different options here. So I'm just going to have a quick look at Army Forge, because the Eternal Bug Riders, what they got, lances, or spiked blades is what they can change them for, which attack 1 each and rending. This whole unit has got regeneration and impact 2, so when it hits in combat, they've got 1 attack each from the claws, 1 attack each from the lance or the spike blade, and they will get 2 attacks automatically hitting on a 2+ from the impact. So whenever you get to charge and attack with this unit, it's going to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 potential hits, which is enough to wipe out a lot of small units. All right, we've got the Eternal Guardian Ancient. I was wrong. It's a toughness 9, so a 9 woof. It's actually a hero model. I'd completely blanked on that because he's such a big lad. I was like, oh, this is kind of like your Tree Man version, but of the beetle variety. Actually, this is a hero. Because he's toughness 9, it means he's not joining any units, but he's got the option to have wings. You've got up to Squirmfly or Furyfly, so you can buy him a ranged weapon, 12 inches, 9 attacks and poison, 18 inches and 6 attacks with rending. He comes with a great hammer, which gives you 3 attacks, each of them doing blast 3, so up to 9 potential hits there with AP2. I really like that. Or they can be switched out for 9 AP1 rending glaive attacks instead. I think I'd probably go that, given that the unit is quality 3+, and he's also got 3 stomp attacks too, so that's going to give you 12 attacks on a 3+ with AP1. Yeah, I do like that. And oh my god, the shooting is an upgrade, so you can take that, and then you can also take like the 18-inch 6 attack rending attack. It's a lot of points, but it gives you such a terrifying presence. And this is something that I'm absolutely loving in one-page rules, is the heroes can be upgraded. They are never going to be as brutal as old school Hero Hammer, but they feel great. Like you play with a hero, and whether they're casting spells, or they've got just a good shooting weapon, or they've just got 3 attacks at AP3 or something like that, you want a unit of them. But you can't have a unit of them because they are a hero, and most of the heroes that are big cannot be joining units as well. So you can kind of take a unit and add a little hero, and it's just like, oh, it feels good because you're like, oh, I've got this hero who is extra, who is just kind of mean, without being like, cool, I'm just going to deploy my hero here and delete a unit. Some of the bigger stuff will do that, but you're going to get charged up the nose. So I love that that's how this works. All right, on to the sci-fi bit. Now, it's been a long time since I've been remotely interested in playing sci-fi games, and OPR has pulled me in. The rule set's fantastic, and the models are just something different and enjoyable and fun. So this is month 2 of their Orc range, and we've got a battle truck, which is a truck made for battle. We've got big guns on it, and it's very similar to the APC truck that was out last month, but it's got a turret, it's just got more guns. It can still carry troops, but it's just got more guns. Then we've got veterans. This is basically veteran month when it comes to the Orcs. So there's a veteran leader on bike, there's the veterans, there are veteran bikers, and of course you get the battle truck, which we already talked about. So at the top left hand side here, you've got the veteran bikers. Now the difference is they've got these kind of Harley bike shields to them, and it gives you a really great design. Saw in the Discord someone was like, oh, it would be really good if we could have bikes without the windshield. And that's last month. Because it's OPR, you can kind of just use whichever ones you want as whichever ones you want. So you've got the bikes this month. You've got a bike hero on the left hand side with a banner, and then and the right hand side with his big stick. Then we've got an orc veteran hero, which is the guy with the banner on his back, and then you've got a whole bunch of veterans. Now the orc veterans, orcs in general, are just a really interesting army. They have got a ton of guns, but really their strength is in combat. So things like the trucks, things like the bikes that allow you to get close, get that charge in, and just, I mean, all of orcs are basically hitting on 4+ at least with 2 attacks each. So an orc unit marauding into the lines is going to do a lot of damage, which is exactly what you want to do. But they've also got some very tempting guns. So the veterans, they're quality 3+, which means they're hitting on a 3+, which is better than the 4+ of orc warriors. But they've still got this rule. It's called bad shot, and bad shot, the rule means that the unit is a bad shot and is only going to hit on a 5+. So as we scroll down here, you can see all of these orc veterans. They've got loads of guns. You've got carbines, you've got flamers and stuff like that, but realistically, don't worry too much about it. What you want is giving these guys, having them just the extra close combat weapons, just to really maximize the fact that they are tougher with defense 4+. And when they get into combat, you want to just be hitting with as many of those attacks as you can. And their design is very similar to the infantry, but they've got more armor, so they do stand out. Now, one thing I will say, having printed this unit, is if I printed them again, like they come out on 32mm bases and they're really nice, I would probably scale them up just 5%, 5 to 10%, just so they look really kind of big and imposing. The extra armor gives them gravitas, but to make them stand out completely from your infantry, scaling them up 5% will be perfectly fine with the pre-sports, and it's just going to add a bit more to them. Right, they also have their quest character for the month. Now, Jackals are the OPR's version of Kroot, essentially. So if you're a 40k player and you think about how Kroot work, the Jackals work that. In the OPR world, they're scavengers. They've got cool fluff to them, actually. But this one has managed to get himself what looks to be a Star Host shield, and he's got a little pistol, and this is a little dog warrior. I think he's an infiltrator. Can't remember what particular... oh, he's a Jackal's Guardian. That's the type of character he is for quests, which is like sci-fi RPG light. And again, just one of those things where, ooh, I've got a hero model to paint for an army that I don't have, which is going to tempt you potentially to print some Jackals. So let's have a quick look at the sci-fi units. This is the Orc Veteran Hero, which he's probably called something different, Veteran Leader. So when it comes to the Orcs, you get the bald head, and you get a female head and a male head. I think there's 4 different types of heads. No helmets for the orcs, so that we've seen so far, but you get a variety of like hairstyles and things like that. So if you want to go pure orc, like I've done with the bald heads, just to really maximize it, because I'm going to be adding some blue war paint as well, and I want more skin so that the war paint stands out, you can do that. But if you want to lean into the kind of World of Warcraft or new D&D vibe, you can go with some of the different hair schemes because they have made them available. All right, so we've got the Veteran Leader on bike here. It's quite cheap, actually, until you put the bike on. Still quality 3+. But the idea here is that this guy with a bunch of combat attacks, what can he take? 2 combat attacks, and he is going to slap in a unit of orc bikers. Now the orc bikers are really interesting. The design is great. You've got a bike, you've got a Harley here with bits of like bone and feathers slapped on, including a couple of machine guns on the top, and that design carries through to the veterans as well. But the bikes have got 3 shots as well, so they're kind of like very fast, very mobile, and I think they're going to be really useful because you can flank with them, or you can just absolutely rage charge with them, and having a hero attached to that unit is going to give you more wounds, and it's going to give you a couple more really good attacks too. So these are the veterans, and way more armor than the infantry. Very great models, very expressive. You've got a little bit of the facial hair stuff. There's some great alt sculpts for this one. I very much enjoy this one. So some of the orcs do have facial hair, but again, you don't have to use them because the way OPR works is they're just going to provide you with different versions, so you can kind of custom pick which ones you want. But when it comes to the veterans unit, they can take a bunch of guns, but you kind of want to use them to go to combat. This is the OPR version of the 40k knobs. So the Orcs veterans, basically, they're just better at hitting in combat. They've got more armor. That's what they're here to do. So they come in units of 5s instead of the standard Orcs of 10. So they are a little bit less resilient. They've got a bit better armor, but they're going to hit a lot harder because they're rolling better attacks and they get better, I think, access to combat weapons. So the veterans are kind of like your combat units. Oh, this is wicked. Like, I love this medic. This is a medic, but he actually looks like he's about to throw a gas grenade. Very cool design. And I've got a thing for sci-fi dudes with banners. And the Orcs every month so far, we've had a banner bearer, and it's just so primordial. Like, if you like, they've got the combat vibe of the later Doom games, where these guys are just big lads with big armor, but there's a little bit fantasy and like knights and stabs and swords and banners to them, which I'm finding I really enjoy. It's not the stupidity and the idiocy of the 40k Orcs, but there's a barbarian style to these guys, which I really like. Right, here's your Orc veterans on bikes. They are Orc veterans on bikes. So they're nice and shooty. They even have a rule that you can get for these guys to give them the shooty rule. No, they come with it. When shooting, whenever you score a 6, you score another hit. And these guys have got 3 attacks each with AP1, so they are zooming around. 2 combat weapons each, so no impacts for these guys, so they're going to get 6 attacks in combat, but the 18-inch range and the fact that they are fast means they're moving around 8 inches as well, so you kind of got a strike range of 26 inches. They've got bad shot, so they're only hitting on 5s, but these guys here are going to have 9 shots hitting on 5s and 6s cause an extra hit. So you're going to cause a few wounds even from sort of 20 inches away, which gives you a lot of flexibility. You can swing them out, they're nice and fast. You can go and collect an objective if you need to. You can strike in with a quick combat attack. If you strike a hero to them, it's even more potent. Really big fan of this unit. I think because they got bad shot, I would not run the veterans. I could be wrong. The fact they've got an extra armor is really useful, but I probably want my fast guys to be a little on the cheaper side to grab the unit and to just chuck 9 shots, AP1 and hitting on 5s. If they're all hitting on 5s, you don't really need to upgrade too much, in my opinion. And you get some very cool alt sculpts. Again, everything I said about the Boneheads earlier is true, but the fact that they've got a load to choose from, it just gives you extra choices, and choices are really good, which is why I love this vehicle. So we've got the battle truck here, and the battle truck is a chonky boy. I've printed it out. Let's see if I can remember to put some B-roll in of the battle truck here. And the battle truck has got 12 wounds. Oh, it's got impact 6, so if it drives into somebody, it gets 6 hits to attack them. It has a heavy machine gun, a heavy rocket launcher, and you can replace the rocket launcher with a heavy cannon as well. So you've got the 2 different guns. I went with the missile launcher for mine. I think I forgot to print the pintle mounted weapon, but it doesn't really matter. If I've got a missile launcher there, I'll probably go for a machine gun on the top just to add it up, although I do love the missile launchers for the Orcs. I've gone with the plow, but you get the choice of the plow or the little cattle prod thing there. You've got all these are optional, but you've kind of got to have them. And the interesting thing about this is it comes with crew that you can stick on. So my APC has got one of these thrones on top. My big tank hasn't, but you've even got some bars on the back, and it comes with crew that you can stick on, because this has a option called boarding rig, which gives it 5 extra transport. So even on your tank, this thing having 12 wounds and 2+ defense and a whole bunch of weapons, you can chuck 5 veterans on there and kind of just drive around shooting stuff, and the veterans can dismount. In fact, that's a very good idea. Yeah, all right. How much is that? 15 points. Yeah, okay. And it's fast. So move up 8 inches, shoot with all your weapons. When you get your next activation, you can just deploy your veterans off there, and they have to stay within 6 inches. Yeah, I don't know. It's quite cool that they've got that extra option. You get a choice of different pintle mounted. There's 2 different weapons. There's 3 different crew. Hair male, hair female, bold-headed, and you get a choice of 2 weapons on the front as well. So it's a very cool kit. I couldn't wait to print that. I printed it straight away, and I thoroughly enjoyed everything that has happened this month. Okay, so that's the overview of the month. I cannot wait for next month when we're just going to start hitting dwarves, but I've got my orcs, so next week we'll do an update on my orc force. Then the week after we will do a bit of a deep dive on one of the units, potentially the beetle boy. But let me know in the comments which of these units you want to see me print and show off. Could do the big Saurus guy if it lands in time. And then the last week of the month, hopefully we'll be able to show off our first OPR game featuring my orc force. But for now, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more wargaming content. Happy printing.